Surprise, Christianity lied to you. Okay, maybe that's not a surprise, but Satan is not the devil. Hi, it's Jagazus, and I teach deconstruction things here on the internet, and this is another episode, technically episode 13 of Things Christianity Lied to You About, the Devil Edition. A lot of people will say in evangelical Christianity that the devil is Satan, who is also the serpent, who's also the archangel that fell named Lucifer. None of these relate to each other. In fact, there's not even a single Satan in the Bible. Satan is actually more of a title. Let's go over it. This one's gonna be hard. I've tried to record it multiple times and I'm like, there's so much information to cram in here, so just bear with me. This whole entire the Satan is the devil is Lucifer thing comes after the Bible was even written. Back in the Hebrew text, when they say a Satan, Satan is a role, not a name. In fact, a Satan, a certain Satan, and the Satan are very specific different grammatical ways of describing a role. So originally in the Hebrew Bible, a Satan was just basically God's executioner or God's judge. It wasn't the reference of one character, but instead a job role. This is important because we actually see this evolve throughout the Bible. We see later additions come in, say as in the book of Job, where it becomes a very specified role where Satan actually has autonomy. Where for most of the Hebrew Bible, most of the Old Testament text, he was acting only on God's behalf. In fact, even in Job, he's acting on God's behalf. There is no Satan devil guy running around controlling the world. As I said, Satan is not the serpent in the Old Testament, but in evangelical Christianity, there's a huge push to view the deceiving serpent in the Garden of Eden as Satan, even though this is never ever mentioned. One of the reasons why people think this is because later on in Revelation, it says the serpent of old, which is a reference in fact to the chaos dragon Leviathan, not Satan. No, that's just a serpent who talks in the garden. Then we have the devil, which is a more New Testament concept and comes from the devils, which are basically demons. And then there's like a head devil. One of the reasons why everyone thinks that these are all related is because Lucifer is the name of the devil. That's never said in the Bible either. In fact, Lucifer only appears once in Isaiah, which is basically describing the king of Babylon and his fall. They're making fun of Hillel ben Sahar because Babylon had control over the Jewish people and there was a Jewish exile. So they were getting retribution, they were getting revenge, and they were celebrating the fall of Babylon. Lucifer just means light bearer, and it was basically poking fun at him, being like, oh wow, the one who's so shining and brings all the light has now fell. Ha 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 ha. You want to know what's a real fun fact actually? Is that Jesus is also referred to as the light bearer, but in the Latin Vulgate they didn't translate that as Lucifer in the same way they could have. But in Latin hymns throughout the Roman Catholic history, they actually do sing about Jesus being Lucifer. Uh-oh. The whole viewpoint that the devils fell from heaven comes from that very same Lucifer verse in Isaiah. But that's not actually the Satan falling from heaven, because again, the Satan is not a singular character. And it's important to know that the devil in the book of Revelation is actually kicked out in Revelation 12:12. That is when the whole he and all of his angels are kicked out for disobeying God thing comes from. So if you're like most evangelicals and you believe Revelation is a prediction of the future, then that means the devil hasn't even been kicked out yet. So whatever is going on in your life that the devil is controlling is actually controlled by God, much like it is in Job, where he tells the Satan to go mess up Job's life just to see if he still loves God. God is still controlling Satan until he kicks him out in Revelation 12. Whoa, big news there. But that's neither here nor there because Satan is not the devil and he's not Lucifer. And he's also not the serpent. All this comes together into one entity later on after the Bible is written, a couple hundred years after, and it starts working its way into dogma. And it's very pervasive in works such as Paradise Lost and Dante's Inferno, things that then build on the Bible, even though canonically, Satan is not one person and is not God's adversary. It becomes a singular person because of these works of fiction that make it look as if the devil is controlling all evil. It acts as a way to separate God's intention from Satan's intention, because we have this new dogmatic perspective of God is an all-loving being. When in the Bible, God is not an all-loving being. God is a jealous God. God controls the world and wants wars and famines and only protects one certain kind of people. That God is not seen as all good, all loving, not even all-knowing, not even omniscient. All those things that we come to know in Christianity of God being here, seeing everything, knowing the future, are all later additions. So to make up for that new perspective of God being all-loving, they have to come up with an idea of why do bad things happen? Why are people getting cancer and dying? Why would God, an all-loving being, make these things? Well, the perfect scapegoat comes in the form of Satan, because obviously he's the one doing all these things. Then you can read back into the Bible and say he also must have been the one in the garden to bring all sin in. Because why would God invent sin? You start seeing all these things pop up in literary fiction and then being backed up by verses in the Bible instead of the other way around. This whole entire time, scholars have known this. This has been very well studied, very well documented, but Christianity lies to you about it because it's so much easier to have a scapegoat than to wrestle with the complexities of a God that is both cruel, chaotic, and quote-unquote loving. A God that offers salvation and redemption but also causes you to mess up in the first place. That's a very hard thing to reconcile, so they come up with this scapegoat of Satan to put all the sins onto. But ask yourself, does it make sense for God to create Satan knowing everything that he's gonna do? Does it make sense for him to allow Satan to control you, then punish you for the sins that Satan caused? Does it also make sense for him to send you to hell for the things that Satan caused you to do, where Satan gets to rule over you for the afterlife? Why would Satan be punishing you in hell if he's against God's decision in the first place? If anything, he should be rewarding you when you get to hell. It just doesn't make sense. Basically, if you're going against God and you're with Satan, you're going to Satan's domain, then you should be in like a Satan version of heaven. If he has that much power, he should be giving you cupcakes and ice creams for doing his bidding. It's a very, very long history, but it's very clear that Satan is not the devil, is not Lucifer, is not the serpent. This whole time Christianity's been lying to you. If you like more information about these sorts of topics, follow my page and check out my playlist, Christianity Lied to You About. I also have longer versions where I go more in depth with information, resources, and research that are longer versions of the same video on each of these topics for subscribers only. So make sure you're subscribing wherever you're watching this, whether it's on the Clock app, the Red app, or the Gram, or even just the Patreon. I have full versions of this video available for subscribers on each of those pages in your favorite place, and you get access to the Discord, plus additional perks such as early access to videos. I've been Jagezus, and this is Satan is not the devil, is not Lucifer, is not anything, and Jesus is also Lucifer, and all this has been a lie, and Christianity knows it, and they still lie to you about it anyway. Woo! This is gonna be fun to edit.